I was peeling some apples that I'd got from the garden, and there was a programme on the radio about Brendan Behan. I call it Peeling Apples with Brendan Behan. I peel apples while listening to a story standing by the radio. Post-war Paris, no heating, hungry, walking all night, finding food on windowsills. Then becoming part of a flowering of thought and writing and poetry. Sartre to Beauvoir and Camus, philosophizing in smoky cafes. The duty of a writer is not to those in power, but to those subject to them, says Camus. And uigness, things that could not be written about at home, marriage breakdown, homosexual love. His lament for Oscar Wilde, dying broken in a Paris hotel. Returning to Paris in 1959, his best work was born, Borstal Boy, the Quare Fellow. I pick more apples. The creepy crawlies are flung out of their haven as I peel and quarter. I watch them in the basin of water. Guilt overcomes me. They were content where they were. Now I watch them struggle and drown.
Well, he was a missionary. He was an esteemed poet and writer. He was a scholar. He was a man of politics, and he was, to paraphrase again some of that lovely speech by former President of Ireland, Mary Robinson. He was emblematic of a society that took the poet very seriously, and he was regarded as a person of authority who could adjudicate in the political goings on between Ireland and the growing kingdom of Dal Riada. And indeed, there's wonderful speeches online by Mary Robinson. There's one by, I was listening to recently, Michael Higgins. And of course, you know, there's so much written on Colmcille, Montagu Heaney, Carson, Muldoon. And let me say again that the subject is ripe for retelling and exploration by female poets and voices. And indeed, I was really heartened to see that one of my kind of literary heroes, Biddy Jenkinson, has been commissioned to write something on Colmcille this year.
So my poem is called A Dove, and it's a feminist take on St. Columba and the Battle of the Book with abstract elements. A dove. There, dove of soft white doubts, lethal played in words of breasts cleaved, now feather-foot peace, blood-suckling to prayers. What prompted us to strike from greed-guised unreason? No matter from the shape of letter traced along the dead skin of youth and age. You could have birthed the curse. White beauty and a blackening burst from the scored flank of a single moment of rage. Kneel, kneel, kneel now to unmarked grass-wetted fingers. I dreamt of different times and what it is to dream from the rim of blue bitter sheets, and how a woman taught me to sing a wing beat from scripture, and a bird, shelter shaped from guilt and murder, flew from my mouth.
The second poem is called The Day After. And it's really just a response to something that happened in my own life, literally the day after. And as it so happened, that day coincided with the workshop. In search of consolation, I pull on my fissured heart, my unmade confessions, my naked, bruised soul, and pilgrim to the edges. The salt marsh curves beyond sight, familiar mystery, familiar solace. I breathe in the empty air and, ragged, join the skylark's liturgy. Samphire, abundantly plump, autumn burnished, and soft are the low-slung skies. Yet beneath their weight, I am on my very knees. The tangle and the cracked strand lines suffer me knowingly. Driftwood gleams, silver, white, blonde, silver. With reverence I make my silent offering. And then you're here. You're here, my heart sinks and leaps. You're here and my throat dries, empties. You're here and all the unsaid, unmade confessions finally fall free. The salt marsh, sacred as any space and not yet too salty to receive our tears. I measure the length of compassion here. You're not my pain or the slow sorrow of broken friendship. You are entirely yourself, your eyes crushed petals. And as you come, I watch every limp. As you come, I lift one hand, greeting hope.
And this one's called Greenheart Incantation. In the name of the silence, in the name of the green heart, in the name of lake water and tree bark, I go forth beneath this my battle book. And I fell stone, and I fell road, and I fell heat and dust and noise. Nettle bespoke span. Nettle awakens spring. Nettle heralds fairy. Nettle is sting.
Possibly people cleared from the island of Iona so that you could have it. And interestingly, because that was owned by somebody in Dalriada. He was a charismatic man, no doubt. Big man, that's all of those kind of things. And a man, and like Annemarie and other people are asking, where were the women in this? I'm sure they weren't banished. Where were the children? You know, what was the experience of families and women and children and non-monk males in this kind of powerful clerical world?
Legacy of Colmcille is such a place of richness and importance to look at as writers, and it's also a place of kind of loss as well, for me anyway, and a place of kind of trauma and conflict. And there's an opportunity to look back in time and to honour and celebrate, but also to reimagine and to interrogate and to kind of, you know, encounter the subject in an imaginative way where you kind of rewrite or restore.
Churreain na Naomh. But how did it really happen? In the name of God, he said, and by the strength of my own hand, may this sacred staff be driven from this hill and carried over these waves to land on Tory Island, in the cause of him that is the ground of all being. He lowered his eyes then and fell silent. We became, all three of us, transfixed, as the veils of the world of men fell away from him, and he stood before us now, as surely rooted as an oak. Out of a great stillness, to a music we couldn't hear, his body began to sway, and little by little a quickening, as the crozier swung around him in ever-widening arcs from east to west and back again, and faster it became, and there was, I swear to Christ, a vortex, a rushing of wind around him, till of a sudden the staff loosed from his grasp and shot into the air, launching itself northward to the sea. Our eyes remained on him, his soul naked now, exhausted in its triumph. We didn't need to look over the water to know that we had been surely bested. It was a matter of plain right that it would be in Colum's gift to bring the holy word to the people of this island. And so it was. But if you ask me now, how did it really happen? I can't say. I can only tell you what I saw.
Ba bhailim an dón sa a léamh as Gwelan agus as Béarla. It's called The Dove and the Fox in English, or an Colum agus an Sionach as Gaeilge. I like to write in both languages, and the poem was inspired by a story I heard at the workshop. I was at the second workshop, and I was at Annemarie's workshop, and I enjoyed it very much, and I'm very grateful to all concerned for the experience. So is mis Aine Moynihan tá chóniarm in nún chuin I gúnta chirí agus Churreain Morán. An Colum agus an Sionach. In anam chrim cad a bhí suas lei, céin fágur inisi a scéal leis an manach, leis scéal a bas súrachas a fir, bhí dúl a kiss a bhanach, glach ui mé. Nar of mahabol dó, lán muster in a láhir, bé a túrim go raibh sé uignach, cén á dúr a puin ach padracha tréan. Dúmpig radégan inti an a dhéisin, féis gá an dorchadis nach on an iad, bhuach si an chuinel an ihe dagiún, is hínig teab lenne fear in a labas suan. Chlí si Colum I gogarníl drúiseach, is Sianach éonar a sláánú isteach in a fluis. The dove and the fox. What was she at? Why did she go to the holy man to tell her story? Sure, the ugly husband was only the half of it. It was the holy man she loved. And didn't he know it? The way he swaggered when he saw her. She said she sensed a loneliness in him, though nothing was spoken, only prayers. Something shifted in her then. In darkness, she thought, all men are the same. So that night she snuffed out the candle, lay down at last in her husband's bed. Did she shamelessly whisper the dove's name, while a fox slunk away alone to his den?
Talisman. Taller than any man, hoisted on a pole and carried thrice around the field on Cahach. To bring a book into battle, you have to house it like a body in armor. You have to hold it high so it appears to touch the sky. But what do you believe when blood is spilled as easily as ink? The fallen man calls only for his mother, and truth is on the ground.
On the pier, through old boards, tree trunk thick, the water below is dark and still. In the channel, through late summer sea sparkles, a seal's head is glimpsed. Excited yelling drives it to deeper, safer waters.